She looked dirty, hungry, and had nowhere to sleep. But what this billionaire lady didn't know was that the man she helped by the roadside was hiding a big secret, a secret that would shake her world and change her life forever. Who was this strange man, and why was he really on the street? Sit back and find out as we dive into this shocking and emotional story. Abigail was a young billionaire living in the heart of Lagos. She had everything, luxury cars and a beautiful house. But deep inside, she felt empty. People only wanted her for her money, not for who she truly was. One evening, Abigail sat alone in her big, quiet living room. At just 33 years old, she had already made a name for herself in real estate. People in Lagos called her the Queen of Land because she was always closing huge, expensive deals. Just today, she had sold a property worth over 250 million naira, and this wasn't even from her company job. It was from her side hustle, one she managed quietly outside work. Since it was her personal client, she was entitled to at least 10% of the full amount, that's 25 million naira straight into her account. So, money wasn't her problem, it never had been. She had money to travel anywhere, a car that turned heads, and a wardrobe that would make any fashion lover jealous. But still, she didn't feel complete. She sat on the couch, still wearing her work clothes. The TV was on, but she wasn't really watching. Her eyes stayed on the screen, but her mind was far away. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, tick, tick, tick. Her phone buzzed on the glass table in front of her. She picked it up quickly, hoping it was someone special, but it was just another bank alert. She dropped the phone and let out a deep breath. Her house was quiet, too quiet. No laughter, no footsteps, no one waiting for her, just silence. Abigail leaned back and closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek, which she quickly wiped away. "What's the use of all this money," she said softly, "if I come home to emptiness every single day?" Suddenly, the door creaked a little from the evening breeze. She turned quickly, nothing, just the wind. But something in her heart felt uneasy. Something was missing, not money, not fame, something deeper, something no one could buy, love. But what Abigail didn't know was that someone was about to walk into her life, and that person would change everything forever. At the office, Abigail was untouchable. She walked in every morning with her neat dress, shiny heels, and a straight face. Her makeup was always perfect, her hair always pulled back tightly. Her mouth hardly smiled, and her voice was sharp like a knife. She always knew how to close a deal. "Good morning, Ma," her junior staff greeted as she walked past. "Morning," she replied, not slowing down. They called her the Ice Queen behind her back, not because she was wicked, but because no one had ever seen her laugh, or cry, or even talk about love. "She's not the type that needs a man," one of her coworkers once said. Another lady responded, "That woman is in a relationship with her career." But they were wrong, they didn't know the truth. Abigail cried alone sometimes. She wanted someone to call her at night and ask, "Have you eaten?" She wanted to be held, to feel safe, but all she had was money and silence. That Saturday morning, she sat on the balcony of her beautiful apartment, sipping a hot cup of tea. The streets below were quiet, just the distant sound of vehicles driving by. Then her phone rang. She sighed and answered. "Mommy, good morning." "Good morning, my daughter," Anastasia's voice came through with energy. "Are you free this evening?" "Mom, it's Saturday." "Please don't say it's another blind date." Anastasia didn't hide her smile. "His name is Frederick. He works in Warinpa, Abuja, but he's in Lagos this week. I told him about you." Abigail rolled her eyes. "Mommy, I'm tired." "Abigail, don't say that. You're 33, your mates are on their second child. Can't I just enjoy my tea in peace? You've been drinking tea alone for years. When will I carry my grandchildren? All these big words and long eyelashes of yours, aren't they for a husband to see?" Abigail didn't reply. "Talk to him, that's all I'm saying," Anastasia added softly. "Love comes when you least expect it." Abigail gave a dry laugh. If love is really coming, it must have boarded a very slow vehicle. As she ended the call, her phone buzzed again, unknown number. She stared at the screen. Her tea was still warm, but something in her chest went cold. She picked up her phone and slowly answered. "Hello," she said. "Hi, good evening, this is Frederick," the man said with a deep, calm voice. "Your mom gave me your number." Abigail forced a small smile. "Yes, she told me. I was hoping we could meet for dinner tomorrow, maybe 6 p.m. at Greenhouse Restaurant." There was a short silence. Abigail didn't want to go. This was already her 5th date this month, and none of them had worked. She didn't even remember the last man's name, she just remembered how he kept showing her pictures of his cars and talking about his gym routine. "All right," she finally said, "tomorrow at 6 o'clock. "Great. I'll send the location." She ended the call and placed the phone beside her teacup. Then she sat still. In her heart, she wanted to scream. She wanted to call her mother and say, "Please stop. I want to get married, but this matchmaking hasn't worked, and I don't think it'll ever work." But what was the use? Anastasia would never stop comparing her to others. Just last week, her mother said, "Do you remember Cynthia from church? She's 29 and just had her 2nd baby, Abigail. What are you waiting for?" Abigail was tired of hearing the same lines. "You're not getting younger. Do you want to be 40 and single? Just give these men a chance." She stirred her tea again and whispered, "Please God, let this one not be a waste of makeup." Abigail sat alone at the restaurant table. She was wearing a simple black dress and gold earrings. Her makeup was soft, and her perfume smelled like vanilla. She checked her wristwatch, 6:03 p.m. She looked around the restaurant again. People were laughing, some couples were already halfway through their meals, but her seat across the table was still empty. She picked up her phone, thinking of calling Frederick, then she dropped it again. This was how it always started, late, unbothered, disrespectful. She took a sip of water and sighed. Normally, she would have stood up and walked out, she had done it before. But this time was different. Her mother had called 3 times earlier in the day. "Abigail, please don't be quick to judge this one," Anastasia had said. "Frederick may not have all the fancy things, but I believe he's a good man." Abigail whispered to herself, "A good man shouldn't be late." Another minute passed, then another. 6:07 p.m. She looked at her phone again, no message, no missed call. Just then, a waiter walked by and smiled at her. "Ma, should I serve a drink while you wait?" Abigail smiled weakly. "No, thank you, he'll be here soon." She wasn't sure why she said that, maybe to convince herself. And just when she thought of leaving, Frederick walked in. Abigail watched as he walked toward her table. He wore a simple sky blue shirt and plain black trousers. His shoes weren't shiny, they looked like he had owned them for years. But he walked with quiet confidence, no rushing, no pawnee. "See," he got to the table and smiled. "Good evening, Abigail, I'm really sorry I'm late." Abigail nodded slowly. "You're 8 minutes late." "I know," Frederick said. "The boat driver took a wrong turn, and I didn't want to call while in traffic. I like giving people full attention." She wasn't sure how to respond. She expected excuses, she expected noise, but he sounded calm. "Thank you for waiting," he added as he pulled out the chair and sat. Abigail looked at him properly. His shirt had a little thread sticking out from the side, his wristwatch was old, but he had something else, peace. It sat on his face like a friend. "So," he began, "how's your day?" She blinked, surprised. Most men she had met would start by talking about themselves. She sat up straighter. "It was fine." "You work in real estate, right?" he asked. "Yes." "Do you enjoy it?" That question made her pause. No one had asked her that in a long time. I'm good at it," she said. Frederick gave a small smile. "I can imagine, but do you enjoy it? Like, does it make you happy?" She looked at him again, simple clothes, calm voice, soft eyes. And just like that, Abigail felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, curiosity. Abigail leaned forward, resting her hands on the table. Frederick had just finished talking about how much he loved teaching young people how to start small businesses. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "You know that land around San Gatito you mentioned earlier? It's going to triple in value in the next 5 years." Abigail blinked. "How did you know about the prospects of the land at San Gatito?" He smiled. "I read. I follow the market for fun sometimes. I'm not a real estate agent or anything, just curious." Abigail tilted her head. "Most people don't even know that part of the city." Frederick smiled. "I guess I'm not most people." She stared at him for a moment. He didn't look like someone who read property news. His shirt had a tiny tear near the sleeve, his shoes were dull. He said he worked in logistics, but he spoke like someone who had been around big real estate investors. As their conversation continued, Abigail looked at him carefully. He was asking the right questions, saying the right things, but something felt different. He seemed to know more than he was saying. "Have you ever worked in real estate before?" she asked. "No," he replied, smiling. "But I've had friends in the business. I just listen a lot." She nodded slowly, still unsure what to think. And just then, something happened. Frederick's phone rang. He glanced at the screen for just a second, then without saying a word, he pressed the button and turned the phone face down on the table. Abigail noticed the screen had flashed quickly. She didn't see the name, but something about his reaction caught her attention. "Not going to pick?" she asked, trying to sound casual. He smiled. "It's nothing important." But Abigail didn't believe that. His smile was gentle, but his fingers had moved too fast, too sure. She took a sip of her water, pretending not to care. "Work call?" He shook his head. "No, I'm not working tonight. I'm fully here." But the way he avoided eye contact made her curious. The waiter brought their food, breaking the silence, but Abigail wasn't thinking about food anymore. She was thinking about the phone call and why Frederick suddenly seemed like a man with secrets. Frederick smiled and picked up his phone. "Please excuse me for a second," he said, standing up. Abigail watched him walk toward the garden area beside the restaurant. At first, she wanted to ignore it, but something in her heart told her to follow. She stood up quietly and tiptoed behind him. There was a glass door between them. She stood behind it, hiding. She could hear his voice. "Babe, please calm down," Frederick was saying. "I know the rent is due. I'll send something tonight." Abigail froze. "Has the baby eaten?" he continued. "I told you to buy the baby food before it finishes. I'll try and pick one on my way home." Her hand tightened on the glass. He was not single. He was living with his baby mama, and yet he sat across from her acting like a kind, simple man. Abigail's heart began to beat fast. She had been played again. Abigail turned around quickly and walked back to their table. She sat down and waited. 2 minutes later, Frederick returned. He smiled as if nothing happened. "Sorry for the delay," he said. "Where were we?" Abigail didn't smile. She stood up slowly. "Who was that on the phone?" she asked calmly. Frederick blinked. "Oh, just someone from work, nothing serious." Abigail's voice was quiet but firm. "I heard you." Frederick's smile vanished. "What?" "I followed you," she said. "I heard everything. The rent, the baby food, your baby mama." Frederick's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked like a small boy who was caught stealing meat from the pot. Abigail shook her head. "Why did you lie?" He tried to speak. "Abigail, please let me explain." "Explain what?" she cut in. "That you came here pretending to be a good man, a simple man with a kind smile?" Frederick reached out. "I didn't mean to lie. I liked you. I didn't want to scare you away." She stepped back. Her face was hot, Her heart was cold. "I feel sorry for your child," she said, "but I feel sorrier for myself because I almost believed you." Other people in the restaurant had started looking their way. Frederick looked down, but Abigail didn't care anymore. She picked up her bag, held her head high, and walked out the door. Her heels hit the floor like thunder. She had enough pain in her past. She didn't need more from a man who couldn't even tell the truth. The next morning, Abigail walked into a shopping mall in Lecky to pick up some things for the weekend. She still felt upset from what happened with Frederick the night before. Her heart was heavy, her face looked tired. As she stepped out of the mall with 2 small shopping bags, something caught her eye. Across the road, sitting by the pavement, was a man. He looked rough and dirty. His clothes were torn, his face had dust on it. But it wasn't his appearance that stopped her, it was his eyes. They looked tired but deep, sad but full of quiet strength. He wasn't asking for help, he wasn't stretching out his hand. He just sat there, watching people pass by like he wasn't even there. Abigail stood still. Something about him made her heart pause. She couldn't explain it. She slowly walked up to him. The man didn't move, he didn't speak, he just looked at her. Abigail reached into her bag and pulled out some Naira notes. She squatted beside him and placed the money in his hand. "I don't know who you are," she said softly, "but I hope this helps a little." He looked at the money, then looked at her. His voice was low and calm. "Thank you, madam. May God bless you." She nodded and stood up. Abigail turned and walked back to her car, but she kept looking back. There was something about him, something different. That night, Abigail lay in bed but couldn't sleep. She had met many people in her life, rich ones, fake ones, smooth talkers, greedy men. But that quiet man by the roadside? He was different. She didn't know why she was thinking about him, she didn't even know his name, but she wanted to. The next morning, after her meeting, she drove straight to the shopping mall again. She parked her car and walked to the same spot. Her eyes scanned the pavement. He wasn't there. She looked left and right, still no sign of him. Her heart dropped a little. Just as she turned to go back to her car, she spotted him. Ethan sat under a tree not far from the shopping mall. The sun was hot, but the shade gave him a little peace. His eyes were closed, his hands were on his lap. He looked like someone deep in thought. Then he heard soft footsteps. He opened his eyes slowly. Abigail stood in front of him, holding 2 cups of cold juice. "I wasn't sure if you liked orange or apple, so I brought both," she said, handing him one. Ethan blinked, surprised. "Thank you." She sat beside him on the low concrete edge under the tree. They sat in silence for a while. People walked by, cars drove past, but they stayed quiet. It was calm. Then Abigail broke the silence. "My name is Abigail," she said. He looked at her with a gentle smile. "I'm Ethan." She nodded. "Nice to meet you, Ethan." He sipped the juice slowly, then said, "Most people don't even look at me." "Why are you different?" Abigail took a breath. "Because I know how it feels to be invisible. People see my clothes, my work, but they don't see me." Ethan looked down. "Life wasn't always like this for me. I used to have a good job, but then I lost my job. My brother took my money and disappeared. I couldn't pay rent. Everything went down fast." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It's fine," Ethan replied softly. "I'm still alive. That means there's still hope." Abigail looked at him with new eyes. Behind the dirty clothes and quiet voice, there was strength. They talked for a while longer, about books, about childhood, about dreams. And just like that, a strange friendship began. The next weekend, Abigail sat in her car outside the same tree. Ethan was there again, reading an old newspaper someone had thrown away. She walked over and gave him a small pack of food. He smiled, grateful. Then Abigail sat beside him and cleared her throat. "I need a favor," she said. Ethan looked up, confused. "A favor from me?" Yes, she said. It might sound crazy, but hear me out. He waited. I have a family reunion coming up, she began. My mother will be there, and she won't stop talking about marriage, children, and all that. Ethan smiled a little. Typical Nigerian mom. I need someone to pretend to be my fiancé, she said quickly. Ethan's eyes widened. Wait, what? I know it's strange, Abigail said, but I can't go alone again. I just need you to come with me, look presentable, smile, and help me get through the day. Ethan looked down, thinking. I'll pay for your clothes, she added. Ethan was quiet. His fingers played with the edge of the food pack she gave to him. I don't know, Abigail, he said slowly. Pretending to be someone I'm not. You don't have to lie, she said. Just help me. Just for one day. He looked into her eyes. They held no pride, no pity, just honest desperation. After a long pause, Ethan gave a small nod. All right, he said. I'll do it. Abigail smiled, a real smile this time. Thank you, Ethan. She looked at Ethan and smiled. Today, we start your transformation, she said, holding up her car keys. Transformation? Ethan asked, raising one brow. Yes, she nodded. You can't meet my family looking like this. No offense. Ethan smiled. None taken. I've looked this way for too long. They drove to a salon in Victoria Island. The place smelled like hair cream and fresh soap. The workers paused when Ethan walked in, but Abigail held his hand tight. Treat him like a king, she said. He's with me. Ethan sat in the chair quietly. The barber trimmed his hair, shaped his beard, and brushed off the dust from his skin. A woman washed his face gently, removing the dirt hiding his real skin. After the salon, Abigail took him to a clothing store. Try this one, she said, handing him a white shirt and black trousers. When Ethan stepped out of the changing room, Abigail froze. Her mouth opened slightly. He looked like a completely different person, clean hair, clear skin, neat clothes. He stood tall and smiled a little shy. Well, he asked. You? Abigail stuttered. You look like someone in a wedding magazine. Ethan laughed softly. I feel strange, but thank you. No, Abigail replied, thank you for saying yes. That evening, they sat in Abigail's living room. Ethan's new clothes were packed in bags beside the couch. Abigail led him to the bathroom where he had a cool bath and changed into one of his new clothes. All right, Abigail said, standing in front of him, let's begin your training. Ethan leaned back. I didn't know I signed up for school. Abigail smiled. We need to make you sound rich and confident. She picked up a wine glass and walked across the room like a model. Walk like this, she said. Ethan stood up and tried to copy her steps. He walked too fast and almost tripped on the floor tiles. Abigail burst into laughter. Slow down, you're not being chased, she teased. They both laughed. Then she sat beside him and handed him a small card. Read this out loud, she said. Ethan looked at the card. My name is Ethan. I work in oil and gas. I love golf, traveling, and spending time with my fiancée. He read it slowly, trying to sound smooth. Abigail clapped. Not bad. They practiced how to answer questions, how to smile politely, and how to act calm even when people said annoying things. Remember, Abigail said, my mother is sharp. She watches everything. One wrong move and she will know you're acting. Ethan nodded. I'll do my best. They practiced for hours. Sometimes they joked, sometimes they argued, but each minute brought them closer. And somewhere between the laughter and the serious parts, Abigail stopped seeing Ethan as just a helper. She started seeing him as a man she wanted to know better. Every evening after work, Abigail and Ethan would drive around the city together. They'd talk, laugh, and sometimes stop to eat roasted corn by the roadside. When they got home, they would take long evening walks around the estate. Abigail had started posting pictures of Ethan on her WhatsApp status. Nothing too loud, just a smile here, a side view there. She wasn't sure why she did it. Maybe part of her wanted her mother to see, maybe part of her just enjoyed showing him off. But soon, her contact list began replying. Who is this guy? Abigail, your new catch? Isn't that the man who used to sit in front of the Dragon supermarket? I saw him last week. Abigail ignored most of them and continued practicing with Ethan on how to act like a rich man. They were just about to wrap up for the evening. Ethan had done well today. He answered all the pretend questions like a true businessman. Abigail almost clapped for him. Then her phone lit up on the table. A name popped up on the screen, Attican. Her heart skipped. Ethan noticed. Who's that? Abigail didn't reply. She picked up the phone and stared at it. Ethan stood slowly and walked closer. Abigail, what's going on? She turned the phone towards him. He saw the name and the message under it. So this is the same man that used to beg for food outside the Palms? Interesting. Ethan's jaw tightened. Abigail looked at him. He's someone I went out with once, a long time ago. I didn't even know he still had my number. Ethan nodded slowly, then looked at the floor. Someone has recognized me, he said in a low voice. Yes. There was silence. Ethan looked up. Then we need to be smarter from now on. We keep this plan tight. No more WhatsApp stories, no more long walks near busy malls, and I'll be more careful with my words. Abigail gave a small nod. For the first time, she saw a different fire in Ethan's eyes, not fear, but strength. And maybe something even deeper. Abigail was sitting on her bed, scrolling through her phone quietly when it rang. Frederick? She rolled her eyes, sighed, and answered. Hello, she said, frowning. Frederick's voice came through the phone, sharp and full of pride. So this is what you've reduced yourself to, Abigail? You're now posting pictures with a street beggar, a man who used to sit outside a mall with dust all over his body. Abigail sat up slowly, her face turned serious. Is that why you called me? She asked calmly. Frederick laughed. I just wanted you to know you've become a joke. She paused, her voice dropped low. Let me tell you something, Frederick. That man you're mocking, he listens when I speak. He looks at me like I matter. He doesn't pretend to be rich. He's honest. Frederick laughed. Honest? He's a fraud. Abigail smiled to herself. And what were you, Frederick? A man living with his baby mama but telling me you were single? Is that what you call honest? Silence. You messed up, and now you want to mock me for choosing peace over lies? Don't call this number again. She ended the call, threw the phone on the bed, then she whispered to herself, he's not perfect, but at least he's real. Later that evening, Matilda walked into Abigail's sitting room with a worried look. She didn't even sit down before asking, Abigail, please tell me the truth. Is it true what I saw on your status? Is that man really your boyfriend? Abigail smiled. Hi, Matilda, how are you first? Matilda folded her arms. Don't greet me, answer the question. Abigail laughed a little and stood up. His name is Ethan, and no, he's not really my boyfriend, at least not yet. Matilda raised her brows. So who is he? Abigail walked to the window. He's someone I met by chance. Someone who's been through a lot, but he's smart, kind, and different. Matilda walked closer. Different how? You know you've been heartbroken before. You don't just pick any man and post him like a trophy. Abigail turned to her, serious now. I know. That's why I'm taking it slow. But there's something about him. He doesn't want anything from me, no money, no help. He just wants to feel seen. Matilda was quiet for a moment. I'm not saying don't love, Abigail. I'm just saying protect yourself. I am, Abigail said. But sometimes the people who look like they have nothing are the ones with the most to give. Matilda looked at her friend and finally gave a small smile. Just don't let your heart write a check your head can't pay for. Abigail nodded slowly. I won't. Not this time. Days passed. They went on walks, laughed together, talked for hours. But one night, after dinner at Abigail's apartment, she sat across from Ethan with a serious face. I need to tell you something, she said. Ethan looked up from his plate. What is it? She breathed in. I didn't plan for this. You were just supposed to act, just help me save face at a family gathering. He nodded slowly, waiting. But now I think I'm falling for you. Ethan blinked. What? Abigail nodded. I've tried to fight it. I told myself, this can't work. You have nothing, I have too much. You're not who people expect me to be with. Ethan sat very still. But I don't care what people think anymore, she continued. I care about you. Your heart, your mind, the way you treat me, that's what matters. Ethan swallowed hard. Abigail, are you sure? She walked over to him, sat beside him, and held his hand. I'm not asking for perfect. I just want real, and I believe you're real. Tears formed in Ethan's eyes, but he quickly wiped them. You're the first person to say that to me in a long time, he said softly. No one ever believed in me again, not even me. Abigail smiled. Then let me be the first. They sat in silence, holding hands. That night, something changed between them. It was no longer about pretending, it was real. The day of the family reunion arrived. Abigail stood in front of her mirror, holding her hands together. Her heart was beating fast. She wore a yellow dress with soft flowers on it. Her makeup was light, her smile was shy. Just then, Ethan stepped out of the guest room. He wore a dark blue suit. His white shirt was clean and smooth, his shoes shined like glass. His hair was brushed neatly. He didn't look like the man who once sat by the roadside. He looked like someone born into money. Abigail turned and saw him. She blinked. Ethan, you look, wow. Ethan smiled. Let's go make your family believe the story. Abigail smiled back, but deep down, her stomach felt tight. She whispered to herself, please let this work. They got to her uncle's house. The gate was open, cars were packed everywhere, children were running around, music played in the background. As they walked in hand, all eyes turned to them. Abigail's cousin, Chike, dropped his drink. Who's that? Her Auntie Amara frowned. Is that Abigail's man? Everyone stared. Ethan walked straight, his steps slow and calm. He smiled at each person they passed. Abigail's uncle walked up to them. Abigail, he said loudly, hugging her. Then he looked at Ethan. And who is this fine young man? Abigail held Ethan's arm tighter. Uncle, this is Ethan, my fiancé. A pause, then her uncle's face broke into a big smile. Welcome, my son. You are very welcome. Ethan smiled warmly. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be here. Soon people came around. Some asked questions, some only smiled. Even her mother, Anastasia, was very happy to see her daughter with a man she seemed to like a lot. Ethan spoke warmly with everyone and got along with them perfectly. But in her heart, Abigail was thinking one thing, how does he do it so well? And for a moment, she forgot it was all pretend. The family reunion continued. The house was filled with laughter, music, and the smell of fried rice and jollof. Ethan held Abigail's hand as they walked around. He greeted everyone with respect. He bent slightly to greet the elders and cracked jokes that made even the toughest uncles laugh. One of Abigail's aunts pulled her aside. Abigail, she whispered, where did you find this one? He's not only good-looking, he's smart. I like him. Abigail smiled but said nothing. Her eyes were on Ethan. He was standing by the drinks table talking to Abigail's cousin. I believe respect and understanding are the keys to a good home, Ethan said, his voice calm. Money comes and goes, but peace is everything. Abigail's mother, Anastasia, watched from afar. She leaned close to her sister and whispered, "This boy is not ordinary. I don't know where Abigail found him, but he fits her." The next morning after the reunion, Anastasia sat on her balcony, still smiling as she sipped her tea. She hadn't felt this happy in a long time. Her daughter Abigail looked peaceful yesterday, and the way Ethan carried himself, calm, respectful, smart, he reminded her of the kind of man every mother prays to have as her in-law. She picked up her phone and called Abigail. "My dear," Anastasia said cheerfully, "I want to invite both of you for dinner tomorrow." Abigail was surprised. "Mommy, dinner?" "Yes," Anastasia replied. "I want to know more about this wonderful man that has made you glow like the morning sun." Abigail laughed. "Mommy, it's not that serious." "It is to me," Anastasia said. "And tell him I'm cooking it myself. Not even the house help is touching my pot." Abigail agreed and hung up, but after the call, she sat still for a while. She didn't know why, but something inside her felt strange. She looked over at Ethan, who was watching a football game. "Why does it feel like something big is coming?" she whispered to herself. The next evening, the smell of fried rice, goat meat, and pepper soup filled the house. The table was set, and Anastasia wore a bright, elegant dress. Her face was shining with joy. At exactly 6 p.m., Abigail and Ethan walked in. Ethan wore a dark blue native attire. He looked simple but sharp. Abigail wore a light green gown. Her smile looked calm, but her eyes kept moving. "Welcome, my children," Anastasia said as she hugged them. "You came on time. Please sit." They sat down. The food was steaming. Anastasia placed extra meat in Ethan's plate. As they ate, Anastasia leaned forward. "So, Ethan," she began with a warm smile, "tell me about yourself. Your family, what do you do?" Abigail's hand paused on her spoon. Ethan wiped his mouth gently. He looked calm but serious. "Well," he said, "my full name is Ethan Chikuma. My father's name is Chief Douglas Chikuma." The room went quiet. Anastasia froze. Her spoon slipped and fell on the tiled floor. She stared at Ethan. "Did you say Chikuma?" she asked slowly. Ethan nodded. "Yes, Ma." Anastasia's eyes widened. "Wait, is that the Chikuma family of Chikuma Global Oil Limited?" Ethan paused, then he looked at Abigail, then back at Anastasia. "Yes, Ma, that's my family." Abigail's fork dropped from her hand. Her chest tightened. Her lips parted, but she didn't say anything. Anastasia stood up quickly. "Ah. My husband was your father's CSO. Oh my God. He always spoke so well of Chief Douglas. He used to say your father was a rare kind of man." She turned to Abigail, laughing. "Do you know what this means? This is not just love, this is destiny." Anastasia was laughing and telling sweet stories about the past, but Abigail was quiet. She didn't laugh, she didn't even smile. Suddenly, she pushed her plate away and stood up. "Excuse me," she said. Everyone turned to look at her. She walked out of the dining room and went straight to the bedroom, gently closing the door behind her. Anastasia paused, confused. "What's wrong with her?" she asked. Ethan's face looked heavy. He looked down at his hands. "I think I owe you an explanation, Ma," he said in a quiet voice. Anastasia turned to him, curious. Ethan took a deep breath and started talking. "I left Abuja because I was tired. Everyone I met only cared about my money. No one cared about who I really was. So I decided to dress poor and live simple. I wanted to find someone who would love me, not my bank account." Anastasia listened carefully, her eyes soft. "I met Abigail by chance. She helped me. She talked to me like a normal person, and I fell in love with her. I was going to tell her the truth, I swear, but I got scared. I didn't want to lose her." There was silence. Then Anastasia said, "You were wrong to lie, but your heart, I see it. You didn't do it to play with her, you were just tired of fake love." Ethan nodded slowly. Let me go and talk to her, Anastasia said, standing up. Abigail sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes red. She didn't wipe her tears, she just stared at the floor. Anastasia came in slowly and sat beside her. She touched her daughter's hand gently. My daughter, she said softly, I know this is painful. Lies hurt, especially when they come from someone you trust. Abigail said nothing, her lips were tight. But Anastasia continued, if Ethan hadn't come up with this plan and left Abuja for Lagos, do you think your paths would have ever crossed? I'm not saying what he did was right, but I truly believe destiny was trying to work something out. Just think about it, out of over 20 million people in this big city, fate somehow connected you to the son of your late father's old friend. That's not something we see every day, my daughter. He didn't lie to use you, he lied to protect his heart, Anastasia said. He wanted to see if love without money was real. Abigail finally spoke, her voice was small, but he still lied to me, Mom. Yes, he did, Anastasia said, and it hurts. But sometimes the truth hides behind pain, my dear. What are the chances that the son of a man your father once worked for and later became friends with would come to this huge city, meet you, and fall in love? That's not just love, Abigail, that's destiny knocking on your door. Abigail looked at her mother. Her heart was still aching, but a small light of understanding started to shine through her tears. Ethan sat alone in the living room. His heart was heavy. He didn't know if Abigail would ever speak to him again. The room door opened. Abigail stepped out slowly. She stood for a moment, then walked into the living room. Ethan quickly got up. Abigail, he said, his voice low and shaky, I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Abigail looked at him, her eyes calm but serious. Why didn't you just tell me who you were? Ethan looked down. I was scared. So many people have used me. They only care about my money or my name. But you saw me like a normal person. You made me feel safe. Abigail took a deep breath. Ethan, what you did was wrong. You made me believe something that wasn't true. I know, Ethan said quickly. You have every right to be upset. I didn't want to lose you. Abigail looked away for a second, then she turned back to him. It will take time. I'm still hurt, but I'm willing to try again. Ethan's face lit up. His voice shook with hope. That's all I'm asking for. Just a chance. They stood quietly for a moment, then Abigail gave a small nod. Weeks passed. Abigail and Ethan began to rebuild what they had. They started over, slowly, carefully. They talked often. They laughed. They walked around the estate holding hands, like they used to. Trust was coming back, little by little. Then one sunny morning, Ethan told Abigail he had a surprise for her. He took her to a beautiful restaurant on the island. The place was quiet and peaceful. Red roses were on the table. Soft music played in the background. Abigail smiled as she looked around. This is beautiful, she said. Ethan held her hand. Wait, he whispered. He stood up, then he went down on one knee. Abigail's eyes widened. Ethan brought out a small box and opened it. A shiny ring sat inside. Abigail, he said gently, our story didn't start the right way, but everything I feel for you is real. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? Abigail covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. She nodded. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. The restaurant guests stood and clapped. Some even wiped their eyes. Ethan stood up, placed the ring on her finger, and hugged her tight. From that moment, their story truly began. The wedding was beautiful, but not loud. It was not about the big names or the cameras. It was about love. Only people who truly cared were invited. Anastasia wore bright red lace and danced like a little girl. She danced with joy in her heart and tears in her eyes. She hugged Abigail and whispered, My daughter, your father would be proud. Ethan stood by Abigail all through the day, never letting go of her hand. The smiles on their faces were real, like two people who had walked through fire and came out stronger. A few months after the wedding, Ethan opened a charity home in Lagos. It was a safe place for poor people who had no food or roof over their heads. He named it New Hope Home. Abigail was by his side every step of the way. People often asked Ethan why he did it. He would say, "Because I was once seen as a nobody, but one person gave me love without asking for anything." They never forgot how their journey started, not in a hotel, not at a fancy dinner, but on a dusty roadside where one woman gave orange juice to a stranger who had nothing. That day, Abigail thought she was helping a poor man, but what she really found was love. And though Ethan was never truly homeless, he had been searching not for a house, not for money, but for something no money can ever buy, a heart that sees beyond what eyes can see, love. And he found it in her, forever. So, dear viewers, what can we learn from this story? Sometimes, the people who look like they have nothing may be the ones who carry the richest hearts. And sometimes, love doesn't come in shiny clothes or big cars. It comes in small acts of kindness, like offering water to a stranger. Never look down on anyone. That person you ignored today might be the one who holds the key to your tomorrow. Love is not about money, status, or background. It is about honesty, kindness, and the heart that gives without expecting anything in return.